Tonight, let's talk about how to film in low light on the DJI Pocket 3. Filming in low light is frustrating. It can turn your 4K footage into looking a lot like something your dad shot on Christmas morning back in 1994 very quickly. I don't film a lot at night, but I used to work the night shift, and I've always felt that there is something truly special about life at night. And now, with the DJI Pocket 3, we can capture it. So in this video, we're gonna go over the 2 ways that I recommend shooting on the DJI Pocket 3 for quality video. We're gonna cover the best settings for those ways, and we're gonna see, lastly, if this tiny camera truly can capture quality video in low light. So let's get after it. In 8 hours, when it gets dark out. So while we wait for the sun to go down, let's go over the best settings to shoot in low light on the DJI Pocket 3, and there's 2 ways we can do it. And those 2 ways are setting your camera up manually and low light mode. Setting your camera up manually allows you to have the most control in post-production and gives you that more cinematic ability in low light. While low light mode is what I call more of a run and gun setting, where the camera does everything automatically to make sure you have proper exposure and doesn't allow you to do as much in post-production. Let's go over both. Starting with manual settings, we're going to want to make sure it's in video mode. If you swipe up, you want to put it in 4K 24 frames per second. If you swipe from the right, you will get all of your settings to set this camera up manually. When you get the camera, it will be in this non-pro mode. We're going to want to put it into pro mode just by tapping it. It will illuminate yellow. Starting with exposure, we want to be in 1/50th of a second. That is double our frame rate, which is 24 frames per second. You can see the ISO on manual settings here only goes from 50 to 3200 at the absolute max. You can change it to, whatever you want, but I recommend changing it from 50 to 800. That'll let in the least amount of grain in your image as possible. Going to white balance, 4700 is what I start out at, and that's what I recommend, but you're going to want to change that depending on whatever your setting is that you're shooting. Glamour effects, I always make sure that's off. Color, you can range through a few different ones just depending on your editing likes. I like to shoot in D-Log. I think that gets the most out of the camera. Going to focus mode, you can either do single, but we're moving around a lot. I film myself a lot, so I like to keep it in continuous just so that I'm always maintaining in focus. And if I move and it's in single, it will kick me out of focus. So I put mine in continuous. I recommend doing the same. Breathing compensation, you can just leave that off because it does crop in a little bit and it doesn't really matter that much. And lastly, the sharpness and noise reduction of the camera. These cameras are notorious for shooting very sharp, so I like to put the sharpness at -2 and the noise reduction at -1, and that's it for manual settings. If you swipe down from the top and tap on the person icon, you can create your own setting for this, which I recommend so that you don't have to change it every single time. I'll just save it to C5, and that'll be my low light manual settings mode. Now you can see there that C5 is now saved, so we will swipe over to low light mode and go over those settings. And they're pretty similar, but there are some differences. If we swipe from the right, you can see we do have it in pro mode again. If you turn it off, it has a little bit less standard features, but we're going to turn it back on. This I like to make run and gun, so I put a lot of stuff in automatic mode, but you can still kind of make it manual if you'd like. But you can see right off the bat the ISO values are way higher on low light mode. It goes from 50 all the way to 16,000 ISO. which you can see as the image gets darker, the ISO values raise in the top right corner in order to maintain proper exposure. So we're going to confirm that, keep it at the highest. I just kind of want to test it out. My white balance still remains at 4700 and glamour effects off. And focus mode, again, I like to keep at continuous, but you see you have no color options. And that might be an issue for those that love to color grade in post-production. But those are all of the low light settings. Let's try them out in the field. So here's a little vlog style shot with the active track on, and it's still tracking my face quite well. And I mean, I don't have the best light, but I also don't have, it's not pitch black out here. There is a lot of lights. So it does still work pretty well if you're in the city. So that's good to know that active track does still work. And here is vlogging with low light mode on, and you will notice that active track is not able to be used in low light mode. So you have to kind of just keep the camera pointed at you. But I can clearly see it is getting a lot brighter of an image. But for some reason it wants to kind of face that way, and I'm having to just adjust it the whole time. So I think the ability to use active track is really a game changer when vlogging. All right, so we're back here. This is the same image out of the DJI Pocket 3 as well as the DJI Action 4. And it kind of gives you an idea of how good this 1-inch sensor actually is compared to the DJI Action 4. We're awake now. I shot all of that footage super early in the morning. I am not much of a night owl anymore. I'd rather wake up early, but I think I woke up a little bit too early, so went back to bed a little bit and then checked out the footage. And in my opinion, the footage turned out very good. I was actually surprised by how well low light mode was and the lack of grain in the image. And I think that's due a lot to the 1-inch sensor. But what I determined is that there is a time and a place for both of these modes, and you should probably use both in certain circumstances. If you have more time and you're able to set up the shot and you're able to dial in your settings a little bit more, I would prefer manual settings just because of that post-production ability it gives you. But low light mode actually gave a very good image and didn't boost the ISO way too much that it was unusable. So if you just need to get a shot of something really quick and don't have time to dial in everything, I think low light mode is really actually gonna work for a lot of people, especially vloggers. But you do have to remember that you will lose face tracking ability and you have to manually keep yourself in frame. So, but not the end of the world. We've been doing that for a long time. I'm gonna get to editing my next video here for you. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of the results. I'll see you on the next one.